Welcome. Intermat is joined by the new head coach for Bellarmine University. It's Ned Shuck. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Yeah, thanks, Earl. Excited to be here with you and Rachel today.
Yes, and yeah, thank you. I neglected to introduce Rachel Gallardo, our SoCon correspondent, and we're both going to be kind of joining in for this interview.
Awesome.
All
Happy
right.
to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to be talking to you, Coach. So, first of all, when you saw this opening come about, what was attractive about it, and made you want to pursue this?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that go into the school specifically that were intriguing to me, and just being able to try to talk to a few people that I knew in Kentucky to find out a little bit more about the school, and obviously doing some research online. Just kind of got more and more interested. As the deeper I dug, and then obviously getting the opportunity to come down for the interview was great. Be able to be there in person and see it firsthand. Ultimately, see what's so special about Bellarmine. And it was cool meeting a lot of the staff and meeting some of the other coaches, talking to them about what they've been successful with and how they've been able to do it. So ultimately, for me, career-wise, being a head coach is something that was definitely in the near future and something that I was looking to do. And so anytime a Division I head coach opportunity opens up, that's something that, was going to be of interest of mine. And so it was just really cool all the way along the process, man, to learn more and more about Bellarmine and the opportunity and what's to come.
All right. So one of the things I like to ask coaches, when they get a new job, is what's kind of like the first order of business for you, something that you either want to implement, change, improve, remove, whatever it may be, to ensure that the program is successful in kind of your vision, your mold.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I like to map things out pretty systematically. And so, I kind of have my 90-day plan, if you will, that will kind of lay out some of those things. I mean, everything from the details of, completing all the paperwork and whatnot to get everything all set up at the school to, some marketing plans, some Instagram stuff. Today we just got our Instagram account ready to rock and roll. And so there's some things like that that go into some of the details, but ultimately, more importantly, is meeting with the guys, getting to know the guys on the team. And, those are going to be the guys that I'm spending the most time with. And we get to, really build this program together. And so really looking forward to meet those guys, firsthand and talking with them more. We'll probably have some virtual meetings first, just because, a number of them aren't on campus currently. And so we'll be doing that a little bit until they can get down. But in terms of like changing and things like that, previous coach, Coach Adam does a great job, starting out where they did with kind of transplanting this entire program. And so that was really cool background to how the school started and just another measure to show me that, hey, this university is serious about wrestling, and they took advantage of an opportunity to get that going. And now the transition in Division I, last year, them being able to compete in dual meets and seeing some of the success that they did have. But I think ultimately, changing, there's not a whole lot of changing right now that I'm aware of, because I'm not as familiar with what coach did in the past. And, and the guys are going to get to know, my vision for the future and what we're going to be doing. I'm sure it'll be different. I don't think there are any two coaches that are the same in the country. But this is my team. These are my guys now, and I'm excited for that and excited to work with them. But recruiting is another huge component. I'm hoping to be able to make it out to Fargo here coming up. Turnaround time's kind of crazy with getting down there and then heading out. So we'll see what happens there. But there'll be a lot of phone calls, a lot of connecting with a lot of people outside in the Kentucky community and the surrounding states. Louisville's in such an awesome area, location wise for recruiting, and some of the strongest states in the country. And so from that side of things, it's really exciting to hop on the phone and tell people what we got going on and start letting people know more about Bellarmine.
That's awesome. It's awesome to hear, Coach. Well, so as far as assistant positions, I did hear you talk about meeting with other coaches. So they are going to be staying. That is confirmed, correct?
So no, the other previous coaches are not. So that will be another huge part of what we do here, and then as fast as we possibly can is getting those assistants on. So we have a full-time assistant and a grad assistant, and so another elevation of what they provided from a staffing standpoint too, which is another signal for me of their investment in wrestling and being successful here. So. But yeah, that'll be really important and moving forward to make sure I get my staff on team. We gotta have your crew on board and all go in the same direction. It's being a head coach is great, but I look at my role as more of a a CEO and leading them and mentoring my coaches and working together and utilizing our strengths together. So I'm really looking forward to getting that nailed down and make those announcements as well.
Awesome. So again, what are some characteristics you're really looking for in these assistant positions and graduate assistant positions? I know that you might have read the VMI story I put out a couple weeks ago. So I know that Coach Gibson and Coach Schaufstall at VMI, they both come from Edinburgh. So they kind of had that connection, and they have very similar coaching backgrounds from having, learned under the same head coach. So are you hoping to get maybe a more diversified ideas in the mat room, or are you a more like-minded approach? Kind of what's your approach to that hiring process?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can, there's a lot of qualified candidates that you can look at and find strengths in different areas, right? In an ideal situation, we're going to find somebody that, most importantly is excited about the opportunity and wants to learn. For me, I think it's important that the coaches you get in want to be career coaches. That was from day one for me. I knew I was going to be a coach, and that's not always everybody's path, but I think at this point, when I hire somebody, I'd love for them to say, hey, I want to make coaching my career, and it's always good if they want to be a head coach someday, because, they're going to be eager to learn and totally invest in the program. And so that's something I'm looking for. But something that's easy to work with is working hard. Ultimately that work ethic is going to be huge. I'm going to be working hard, and I'm looking for somebody else that wants to match that and pushing to exceed it. And ultimately, skill set wise, like you mentioned, like on the mat and and off the mat, like there's different areas, right? I hope in an ideal situation, I got a phenomenal coach with some experience there that can also kick butt on the mat. It's not always the case. I think sometimes the kick butt on the mat situation is maybe a little bit overrated in our sport, comparatively to, if you look across the board at other sports, it's virtually a non-factor in most sports. And so wrestling is unique in that way. There's definitely an advantage to having that. And so that will be a factor in who I hire. But ultimately, want to have some people that are excited, know the opportunity, are excited about building a program, taking it to the next level. And, being a little bit different in me is good. I'm okay with, having a different mindset. I think that's something that I've done very well in surrounding myself with people that are of different backgrounds. My time here at West Point with Coach Ward, very similar in a lot of our mindsets, but different in our approaches maybe, and some different things. And so I think it's really, really good for my assistants to challenge me, and test me and say, hey, I think we should do it this way, or hey, what do you think of this? And let's move forward with this. Really looking for somebody to take that initiative and be bold enough to do that and take some ownership in the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. And again, another follow-up question to that. When are we expecting to see some of these hires? Man, I know the school year is starting up soon. So what are you hoping that timeline is going to look like?
Well, an ideal timeline would be August 1. The positions will be posted. And so, I'm not sure we're going to be able to move that quickly or not, but ultimately that would be great. So, excuse me, ultimately it will be, as fast as we possibly can, but you're right, school starting mid-August. So everybody will be reporting back, and we'll have the team here. So I'd love to have somebody in place by then.
And Coach, one of the guys that you mentioned, Kevin Ward at Army, where you've been for, I think, the past 3 years now. What are some ideas, methods, just some things that you learned working under him that you're going to carry along with this new position?
Yeah, I think the thing that was maybe the biggest change for me is just finding there's a different way to win. And one of the things that I've picked up, and I think maybe has shifted my mentality a little bit, is just the amount of live wrestling. I think during my time we did a lot of live wrestling. The programs I've coached, we've done a lot of live wrestling, which is huge. It's needed as much, but as needed. But ultimately, you probably don't need to be wrestling live, 5-6 days a week where you're grinding it out, and so just really, I think it's been a good balance to shift, our drilling, our execution, right, and our live, and really just a different way to run practice. And so it'll challenge me to continue to keep my, my mindset open, on how I lead this program. But I'll definitely take away a few things from, what happened in the room and how we were able to use it to get the most out of our guys here at West Point. So I think we did a great job developing our talent here and really getting guys to the next level from where they're at. And, so there's a lot there, there's a lot of things I've learned from Coach Ward. It's probably, too many to list, but that's the thing that stands out to me most in regards to training and wrestling for sure.
And kind of along those same lines, this isn't your first head coaching position. You had 2 jobs at the D3 level, then go to Army. How was it, you mentioned being a CEO, you're the CEO of your own program, and then taking a different role. And then, how has it changed maybe your perspective going back to the head coaching job now?
Yeah, that's been huge. That's been absolutely huge. Like you mentioned, I was a head coach prior to 2 different programs where I've done what I'm about ready to do right now at Bellarmine, right? But I thought career-wise at that time, one of the things that was really intriguing for me going to West Point was, hey, I'm gonna have to step into an assistant role, something I haven't been in for quite a while, and really kind of have a different viewpoint. And it's helped me remember what's most important, for my assistants now being a head coach, hey, what do I want to be able to provide for them? How do I want to communicate with them? What does our time in the office look like together? What does our time on the road look like together? So just kind of help me refine some of those things that, if sometimes when you're on your track and you're leading your programs, maybe you don't, always take that into consideration. This I think will really help me, now as a head coach at Bellarmine to look back and be like, all right, this is some things that I remember as an assistant I would want, or I'd want to see more of or whatever. And so those will be all things that I take in consideration and how I'm leading and how I'm communicating with my coaches.
All right. And so talking about, again, these different perspectives, going from EIWA, SoCon, very different conferences, coming down south. And so welcome. It's not too south, but pretty south. So what are some differences you're expecting to see from switching from these 2 conferences?
Yeah, the conferences are definitely different, as you mentioned. I don't try to overcomplicate that too much. They got strong wrestling in the SoCon, and I'm excited to compete against them. We had strong competition in the IWA. It's just, hey, we got a new team, a new program, and now we got to see what we can go do and test ourselves against them. And so preparing against new teams that maybe I haven't been as familiar with the last 3 years, just because we don't see them as much, outside of, maybe some open tournaments or the national tournament, if we ran into them there. So not as familiar with the teams and maybe some of the coaching styles of, some of those programs as across the board, all 10 weight classes, but something that, be easy to get acquainted with as we continue to wrestle them and train against them. So, but it's a strong conference and has some really cool history in it. And we're excited to be the new part of that history, and hopefully we keep building it and keep getting it stronger and stronger so that, on the national level, we're bringing a new level of prominence to that, the entire country recognizes the SoCon as one of the toughest conferences in the state.
All right. And I wanted to kind of circle back to something you mentioned earlier. You're talking about the administrative support, and, that's kind of underlying factor that most people don't consider that you have to have success collegiately. And so this is kind of an interesting story how the program came about. There was St. Catherine that's, I don't know, 45 minutes away, and their entire school kind of went away because of financial reasons, and Bellarmine absorbed the wrestling program, let the wrestlers transfer in, and from what I understand, it looks like it was the same administration that's currently there that was a part of this shift. So to me, trying to read the tea leaves, it seems like it's a good situation. You've got people that want wrestling, because I don't know how many schools would have done that. I think most kind of would have just turned their back and not paid attention.
Right. Yeah, no, they're they've been awesome, all along the way, just talking a little bit about that process and how that came about. But it's really important for me to have an administration that's behind what you're doing, and for me jumping into a new school, I need to know that they supported wrestling and they want to see great things happen. It was a wrestling school, and I've been nothing but pleasantly surprised by their attitudes behind it, their backing, what they've been able to provide for the program financially, scholarship wise, budget wise. Those things are, stuff that I know that, hey, we can do some winning here, and we will do some winning here with that type of funding. So looking forward to continue to increase that. Of course, that'll be, part of my role, and certainly appreciative of their flexibility with fundraising, what we're going to be able to do that way to help bolster that. But yeah, having a supportive administration is foundational. It's sure a heck of a lot easier when you're working with somebody instead of, working despite them or against them. And so certainly appreciative of Scott and Pam, who will be my, Pam Stackhouse will be my sport administrator. So really looking forward to working with them.
That's awesome. And then so I like to speak in analogies. So, we say that, inheriting this program, being head coach of this program, that's like your ice cream sundae. And then there's a lot of extras that you get on your sundae, your kind of sprinkles on top, your extra toppings. So that's what I like to consider your camps, your clinics, RTC programs. So are you planning on bringing any kind of those sprinkles on top to Bellarmine?
Yeah, those are a must. There's absolute must to be able to do that. Not only for our program building and our brand building, right, but also just, financially being able to provide more for our athletes and be able to provide more for our coaching staff, being able to provide more for Kentucky wrestling, right, with our RTC and being able to expand that way. And with the camps that you mentioned, being able to pull people in, and really grow wrestling in Kentucky. That's something I'm really looking forward to. There's quite a few college programs that are currently in place and doing a great job. But yeah, man, I'm hoping we can all work together to really grow it from the youth level on through the high school to continue to make it stronger and stronger every year. And so we're going to be a big part of that. We're looking forward to doing that and giving back as much as we can. And all along the way, it will help us out in the end too, but ultimately I'm really looking forward to getting to know some more people in Kentucky and starting to get to know some of the high school wrestlers there. I've recruited a couple from Kentucky in the past, and we have a couple at West Point, and so it's been that's been a great pleasure for me to get to know them and learn a little bit about their background in high school. And so I'm a little bit familiar from that side of things, but it's still still pretty secondhand. So I'm looking forward to getting down there and digging into it.
Yeah, so again, I went to Appalachian. I say this in every video, I feel, because I don't know who's watched and who doesn't, or who doesn't know me. But something that we always like to say, if there's a North Carolina kid coming in, or so when you have your Kentucky kids coming in, get your homegrown kids. So I'm really hoping you can get your homegrown kids in there. And that's really exciting, Coach. And I'm excited to see what you can do with Kentucky youth wrestling as well. It's really exciting that you have plans to kind of not just work with your college, and you're not just worried about, again, your Sunday, but you'll add those sprinkles on top. That's really awesome.
Yeah. No, looking forward. Sprinkles might be my, that might be part of my, my favorite part of that Sunday. But yeah, I got to take care of business first for sure.
So, Coach, one of the things I wanted to talk about, you mentioned earlier as well, is recruiting, and you kind of talked a little bit about it already. You're in a really good spot. It wasn't until I was actually looking at the map and seeing, you're very close to Ohio, which you're familiar with. Indiana, Indianapolis, not that far away. You have Tennessee that's improving. Parts of Illinois, not too far away. So I think it's actually a really good spot. Probably more than most would have known, especially in Kentucky growing as well. So you've got a good local base to kind of choose from.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, recruiting is going to be big. Like he's mentioned, the location is awesome. I've had a lot of experience recruiting in Ohio, which is great. But yeah, like you mentioned, Indiana's right there, right across the border. Illinois, like you mentioned, is real close. Missouri's real close. There's a lot of states, Tennessee, like you mentioned, the southern states as well, that are continuing to grow and get better. The Alabamas and Georgias, everybody's getting better. And so I feel like from that regard, it's an awesome location to, I can't remember what the statistic was, but drivability to Louisville is, there's a lot of people that we can reach just from that location. So really looking forward to the broad, spectrum outside of, recruiting Kentucky, like we mentioned, that we have the ability to get to really easily. And so I think as, we continue to talk to recruits, they're going to see that too. Oh, it's only 3 hours to get there. I had no idea, you have some more of those type of conversations, and Louisville has a ton to offer just as a city as well. Right. It's a pretty big city and a ton of history. And so when we get people down there, I think they're going to see, a promising future for sure.
And as far as, once you start, and I'm sure you're probably already started making these calls recruiting wise, how's it going to be with some of these recruits that may not get the full 4 years of, postseason due to the transition from D2 to D1 status?
Yeah, I think just like any recruiting that you do, you're going to have some objections to overcome, right? I certainly had plenty to overcome at West Point, and we were able to, still pull in some really strong recruiting classes. Ultimately, those will be conversations you have to have with each family, each kid, how important is that to you, right? How important is absolutely having to compete 4 years, in the NCAA tournament. There's going to be a lot of kids that are excited to be able to wrestle at the Division I tournament that maybe aren't the top, 100, on Willie's list, but are fall slightly out of that and want a Division I opportunity, but they're going to be able to compete a full season. And so we'll be able to talk to them about the advantages of, hey, being able to compete against everybody in the SoCon and wrestling some big tournaments and having those opportunities, the Southern, I can't think of the name right now, the Southern Scuffle, and, Midlands, those type of opportunities. Like, you're going to have opportunities to wrestle the elite competition, across the board. And so from that regard, they're going to have those opportunities. You have to wait a little bit to be able to have that opportunity to compete in national tournament. And it's not a big selling point right now, but ultimately it's not something I feel like we can't overcome. And, really, to be honest with you, the last year for Spencer was probably the hardest year recruiting, having COVID on top of, the kids that he was talking to, or, had even more limited time. And I felt like, hey, the kids he has coming in have some good talent and some good ability. And so I'm looking forward to working with the freshman class that he has coming in. And so he was able to find a way to have a little success with that already. And so I'll certainly lean on the other coaches that, have done it as well, at Bellarmine, and have been doing it for a couple of years here, knowing that this transition was happening and being a part of that. And so I'll lean on those guys as well and their expertise. They've had a lot of success across the board with their athletic departments and with recruiting. And so it's going to be a team effort, and, working together with all of them and my staff and, and the families to show them what it's really about, and the advantage they will have with being at Bellarmine, and knowing that, there's just one thing over here that, we don't get to compete just yet in the NCAA tournament, but there might be some other ways that we can kind of work the system to help give them some eligibility.
All right. You mentioned Willie when your name was kind of coming up as, maybe this is a done deal. I'm talking with Rachel and Willie, and, Willie and I are both saying we're talking to coaches, and we're hearing, your name comes up as, who's a good recruiter, that Ned Shuck, he's a pretty good recruiter. What are some characteristics that make you a good recruiter or make for a good recruiter?
Well, I mean, yeah, your reputation definitely has something to do with that, right? It's been, if you would have 15 years ago, if you would have asked, hey, was I a good recruiter? Like, most people didn't know who I was at that point, right? And so it's been a lot of hard work to build relationships with high school coaches, with wrestlers, and doing some national team type stuff and getting to know some more coaches and wrestlers that way. Doing some camps and clubs and those type of workouts. I've been out there and been on the road for a while now, and so people have kind of gotten to know me a little bit. They know that I'm genuine. They know that I like to build relationships, and I'm not going to steer somebody wrong. I'm not going to fib with them and tell them some lies and pull the wool over their eyes and then give them something different. I'm going to say how it is, and people appreciate that, and I think that's a reputation I've given. But foundationally for the recruiting, the interactions with the wrestlers the same way. You have to build a relationship. You may have one from a prior experience, or the parents may saw you recruit somebody else or whatever it may be that might help you. But if you don't, ultimately you still need to be able to build a relationship with them to see if it's going to be a great fit. And some kids, hey, it's really easy and you kick off and it's, your relationship kicks off really well and continues that way. Some kids you got to work a little bit harder for. But ultimately same deal, if you're honest with people, you show them the value that they're going to receive being a part of the program and show them the value that they're going to bring to your program. I think it's really easy for people to get on board that way. If a kid's not sure about this or that, or feels like you're maybe not telling the whole truth or whatever it may be, then yeah, it's going to be very difficult, to be an effective recruiter. And so I think that's something I really enjoy doing. The reality is I think a lot of people don't, even Division I coaching don't enjoy that process of recruiting. They like coaching. They like being, coaching at the national tournament, being in the corner. They like training guys, right? But they may not necessarily like the recruiting side of it. And for me, it's like it's one and the same. I mean, these are going to be the guys that I'm going to be working with and building a relationship with for years to come. And so I've been able to attend a bunch of my wrestlers' weddings. Like that's fun for me to be able to see that and to be able to keep our relationship going throughout. Right. It's not a 4 or 5 year type of relationship and done. And so I think people have learned that about me. I've seen that. And, the opportunities that I've had and the track record of developing wrestlers, being able to bring in strong recruiting classes is appealing to a lot of people. And so looking forward to bringing them down to Bellarmine now.
That's, I think, too, a really great testament to who you are as a person and being able to, again, keep these relationships. And not that coaches are bad people, but I can see where a lot of coaches' personalities are like, okay, we're here to wrestle. We're here to get this thing done. No feelings. We're not going to, but having that, having like being personable, having those good relationships, that's really what, in my opinion, is like the formula to having a close-knit and successful team. So that's really awesome to hear. And I'm really excited for you to get there and see what you do with these guys. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Anyway, so next question. What are you most looking forward to next season?
Oh man, there's so much to look forward to. But I'm most looking forward right now just to getting down there and meeting the guys. I'm looking forward to getting to know them on a daily basis. And, wrestling's such a cool vehicle to build those relationships, right? We get to share in our passion that way and train together and, pursue our goals together and help each other out. And so from that regard, I'm most excited for working with the guys and that first opportunity we get to, shake hands and blow the whistle and our first competition will be a lot of fun. That's always, incredible moments just to be there and to lead the team and let a dual meet or run a tournament through. And so that those are things I'm most looking forward to, but yeah, there's going to be some challenges that you mentioned, how some of the coaches might kind of, act at times or whatever. And there's a lot of false bravado, I think, in the sport because it's supposed to be a tough mano-a-mano type sport, which it certainly is, but I think sometimes yeah, the relationship piece or the, caring for people sometimes goes out the window. And I think that's something that without that, man, it's really hard to push somebody or challenge somebody to get the most out of them, or push them to work really hard if there's no relationship there, right? If it's just transactional and, hey, you're here to help me get better and, build my resume as a coach, well, that's probably not going to work real well for either party. So that'll be a great time for me just to continue to get to know these guys and learn more and more about them on a daily basis.
That's excellent. So before we started recording, you said how you had kind of a journey to get where you're at today. I assume you were in northern Minnesota on vacation when the news broke that you were going to be the next head coach. What's kind of the timetable as far as getting to Louisville and finishing everything up in New York and trying to get your family down there, all those types of things?
Yeah, it was a little crazy. Every summer, we have a cabin in northern Minnesota that borders the Boundary Waters, which is pretty much right next to Canada. And so had a great time out there. But yeah, it was a little bit, being able to unplug without cell phone service was great, but at the same time needing it to let people know what was going on, like you mentioned, accepting the job. So that made for some, some little trips. I had to run into town about 37 miles one way just to get cell phone service. So, but that was, it was good. It was great to be able to share that time with the family and the kids. I got two boys, Lucas and Micah. They're 8 and 10 right now. And they love being up there. They love fishing and having campfires, doing s'mores, doing the whole deal. And so from that side of things, it was a blast, but yeah, so we made the venture, 21 and a half hours, I think, on the road. My wife's an absolute saint. She was willing to do that. And we just, kind of push through and rotate a little bit and get back here. So I got a couple more days left here in New York to wrap things up, say my goodbyes. I've been able to see a lot of the guys here that recruits I brought in. It was tough bringing them in and seeing them off, knowing that I didn't get that opportunity to work with them. And the guys now that I've been able to meet up with here a little bit to see them off. But some of them, unfortunately, I won't be able to see. They're out in the field training and doing some of those things. So connect over the phone a little bit to say goodbyes that way, and that's never the thing you most look forward to as a coach, when you develop those relationships. But I've let them know, like, hey man, I'm going to be at a different program, but still a big fan of yours, until we wrestle you, but, but ultimately, those relationships will continue as well. So I'm looking forward to getting down to Louisville here and potentially in the next couple of days. There's some things in flux right now, whether I'm going to be able to get out to Fargo in time with that transition, with getting everything approved. I'm not sure yet. So my hope is that I get down there, it'll be for a day or two, and then head out to Fargo. So turnaround time's pretty quick. The family here will probably make the move down later after we're able to find a little bit more secured housing. The transition here to New York, again, my wife was a saint, to say the least. In the living situation that I put her in here when we first moved out. But Coach Ward was a huge help in that too, and getting some things lined up for us and helping out that way when we transition. So I'm gonna work hard to get a better situation down there to make that move a little bit easier. But I imagine they'll probably get down sometime in August. So hopefully pretty quick.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and good luck to your family. And sounds like you had a great vacation. I'm glad you got to unplug and relax a little bit, because I know that it was a total firestorm of information and people like, oh my gosh. And I know I added to that because I saw that we follow each other on Twitter. I was like, oh, I can just message him right now. But anyway, let's talk about this new Instagram account that went live today about 2 hours ago. It's got the same handle as your Twitter account at BUNights, WRE. You can give them a follow on Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to turn on those post notifications. You can click on Twitter, the little bell button, and you can get all those tweets as soon as they are sent. I have mine turned on for all the SoCon schools, even for Intermat at Intermat. Please just click that little bell, all tweets. That way you never miss a beat for Intermat or any of your SoCon news. Then is there before we wrap this up, unless Earl has anything else, is there anything else about you you would either like to promote, you'd like to say, a fun fact, your favorite food you found in Louisville, anything fun like that?
Man, I'm not great with remember all the names of the places, but when you said all the great food in Louisville, no joke. There's some awesome places. On the interview, I was really I was pleasantly surprised by all the awesome food in Louisville. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I'm a wrestler, so I appreciate the food. So. But no, I mean, just thanks for mentioning the social media stuff. That'll be something that I look forward to continuing to build and get on there, and really letting the country see what we're doing, and hopefully give people a firsthand perspective of our program. I thought we did a really good job here at West Point with doing just that, and really looking forward to building our brand that way, and making sure we get some exposure out there for our guys on the team, and for our fans to be able to see and follow us on a daily basis. But so yeah, appreciate that shout out there. Hopefully we get a bunch more followers and really start rocking that thing up and getting that out. But other than that, man, I'm just really excited. I'm really appreciative of you guys having me on and letting me talk a little bit about Bellarmine and sharing a little bit about what my plans are there. But hopefully we can do this again sometime soon and tell you a little bit more about how the transition's going after I've been there for a little bit.
Absolutely. I know Rachel and I will be following along closely. And thanks again so much, Coach Shuck, for joining us. Such a quick turnaround, and good luck to you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.